go. Welcome everyone. I'm Brother Doug with my sister Marissa here, and our sister Sadie here, and my brother Dennis, and we are the Awakened by Yahuwah Fellowship Group in Yahuwah Almighty and Yahushua Messiah. Today we are going to be doing a study called Defending the Apostle Paul. So this is going to be a specific study, contending for the belief basically is the point of this study. And really, we should be able to give an answer, according to Paul, according to 2 Timothy. Or I think it might have actually been the book of Peter. I'll look that up by the end of this study to give you guys the reference I'm referring to, contending for the belief and being able to give an answer for what our expectation is. So, defending the Apostle Paul, and I think I might make it a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to make the header more Arial black type of font. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so we're going to go first to 2nd Kapha. Kapha is actually the real name of Peter. Just our brothers and sisters out there, just to let you know, that wasn't his original name. If you do your research, you'll find out Peter comes from Jupiter. Okay, so again, you know, Zeus, Jupiter. So they've interjected that into the scriptures and replaced Kapha with Peter. If you have an Aramaic New Testament, it will actually say Kepha or Kapha. It will not have Peter there. So we're going to go to 2nd Kapha, chapter 3, verse 14 to 17. This is the warning. This is like the first bullet point I have here. This is the warning. Before you read Paul's letters, you better be learned in the Torah. That's all I'm going to say about that. You need to be learned in the Torah before even... And really, that should stand for the whole New Testament. If you don't know Genesis to Malachi, you really... And this might sound harsh, but you have no business. You have no business reading his letters if you don't know Genesis to Malachi. If you don't know the whole narrative of the 3/4 of this set-apart book that the Father has given us, his scriptures, then you have no business trying to interpret Paul's letters. So, and it says final words from Kapha here, okay? I'm reading from a Greek Orthodox Bible, the Complete Apostles Bible here. It says, therefore, beloved, looking forward to these things, be diligent. What does diligent mean? Test all things. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Be diligent to be found by him in peace, without spot or blemish. That doesn't mean, you know, read scripture, you know, once in a blue moon. That means diligent, okay? And consider that the long suffering of our Master is salvation, just as also, and like I said, if you get rid of Paul, guess who else you're going to have to get rid of? You have to get rid of Kapha. Just as also our beloved brother Paul, according to the wisdom given to him, so wisdom from above, not from man, Paul had, wrote to you, as also in all his letters, speaking in them about these things, in which are some things hard to understand, which the unlearned and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the rest of the scriptures. So again, that's self-explanatory there. So be learned in the Torah, be learned in the prophets before you go to Paul. And then it says in the last verse here, you therefore, beloved, knowing this beforehand, be on guard, lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being carried away by the error of the wicked, or the lawless, it might say in your translation. So again, this is self-explanatory here. You know, this is not hard to understand. So, you know, we're gonna continue on here. So we just did 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 14 to 17. Okay, so let's see here. We got 2 Timothy 1:7. We're gonna go here and show you Paul's straight. He's actually quoting straight from the book of Proverbs here. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, for Yahuwah has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Keep that in your mind there, that phrase, of a sound mind. You're going to see where that comes very important right now. Now we're going to go to where I believe he's quoting this from, and I think it's pretty obvious, is in the Septuagint, mind you. If you don't have the Septuagint, you will not, I'm repeating myself here, you will not get this connection. But the Septuagint says in Proverbs 9:10, the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and the counsel of the set apart ones is understanding. Now, see where it says 9:10a here? This is where Paul's quoting from. For to know the law is the character of a sound mind. So when Paul is saying Yahuwah gives us a sound mind, he's saying that Yahuwah gives us a sound mind to know the law. That's what he's actually saying. So again, Proverbs 9:10 in the Septuagint, you can cross-reference that with 2 Timothy 1:7. So we're going to try to try not waste too much time on self-explanatory stuff like that. Okay, so Hebrews chapter 10 verse 5, we're going to cross with here. Psalms 45-6. So again, and I think I'll do something new. I haven't involved my brothers and sisters in a while, so let me know if anyone wants to read. I want to give you guys, what I'll do is where I have the Septuagint, I'll read it, guys, and you guys can read the regular ones you can find in your translation. So like Sister Marissa, if you want to read Hebrews 10:5, and I'll read Psalms 45-6.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
You want me to read it now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, no problem. Yeah, so we're going to do this. That way everyone's going to be involved.
Okay, so Hebrews 10:5 says, this is the Hallelujah version. Therefore, coming into the world, he says, slaughtering and meal offering you did not desire, but a body you have prepared for me.
Yep. All right, so now I'm going to go to Psalms 45-6, show you where Paul is getting that. He's not making that up. He's not making up a statement that Yahusha said. So he's getting it from David here. Okay, so here we go. It says, "O Yahuwah my Elohim, you have multiplied your..." Here we go. All right, it's verse 6. Okay, my bad. Verse 6, chapter 40 of Psalms, in the Bren Septuagint says, "Sacrifice and offering you would not, but a body you have prepared for me. Whole burnt offering and sacrifice for sin you did not require." So basically, David is saying this, but David never dies for our sins. He never has a body that's being prepared for him. Okay, you got to think about it. You got to be honest with the text here. David is foreshadowing Yahusha here. That's what Yahusha said. According to Paul there in the book of Hebrews, Yahusha is the one that actually said that, but we see David writing it. So obviously David was a type of Yahusha, and he was supposed to foreshadow Yahusha. And Yahusha, obviously, he would be our sacrifice. A body was prepared for him. A body prepared for him to die for our sins. That's what he's talking about there. So, again, Paul is quoting from another place in the Septuagint there. Let's see here. We got Hebrews 5:9, chapter 10, verse 26-29, and John 3:36. Okay, Brother Dennis, could you possibly read for me Hebrews chapter 5, verse 9, and Hebrews chapter 10, verses 26-29?
Oh, hold on, let me...
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let me just fix this so we're up to the point.
Okay, so again. What was that again?
Hebrews chapter 5 verse 9 and also chapter 10 verses 26-29.
Okay. I have to get my scriptures here.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I think while you do that, I'm going to try to see if I can cancel out some of this noise that I'm hearing on my background. I should have earbuds here that should be able to help out. Oh, that's not going to work. Never mind. All right.
Okay. Okay, Hebrews chapter 5, verse 9. And having been perfected, he became the causer of everlasting deliverance to all those obeying him. Okay. And chapter 10, verses 26 through 29. For if we sin purposely after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a slaughter offering for sins, but some fearsome anticipation of judgment and a fierce fire which is about to consume the opponents. Anyone who has disregarded the Torah of Moshe dies without compassion on the witness of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much worse punishment do you think shall he deserve who has trampled the Son of Yahuwah underfoot, counted the blood of the covenant by which he was set apart as common, and insulted the spirit of favor, or Ruach? Did you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Thumbs up on that one. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to be reading to add to Dennis there to show you that Paul is preaching the same Besorah there. I'm going to read John 3:36 here, which clearly is showing the same idea. It's belief mixed with obedience, which is what our walk is supposed to include, not just belief. I'm going to show you here John 3:36, and I'll also read from Galatians 1, where Paul says if he did preach another Besorah, he should be condemned, according to his own words. So, John 3:36, he who believes in the Son, let me get a decent one that actually doesn't translate both for believe. There we go. John 3:36 from the Aramaic New Testament, whoever is trusting in the Son has the eternal life, and whoever disobeys the Son shall not see the life, but the anger of Yahuwah shall abide upon him. And let me just break this down here, because I know people will say, well, okay, what's the difference between that and works-based salvation? Well, the difference between this is you're trusting in Yahushua's sacrifice for salvation, but that free gift does not apply to people that want to live a greasy grace life that you do whatever you want. Basically, it's saying that those that truly obey out of the love that they have for the Father and Son, those are the ones that get the free gift. You're not obeying to save yourself. You're obeying out of the love you have for the Father. Now, if you're obeying to save yourself, that's a whole nother story. Then you are falling from favor, if that makes any sense. So it's all about the intention, why you're obeying. Okay, if that makes any sense. Okay. Galatians chapter 1, verse 8. Okay, Galatians chapter 1, verse 8. And this is one I wanted to show here. And actually, I think I'll go up prior and just start from, I would say from verse 6 all the way down. I marvel how quickly you have been turned away from the Messiah, he who called you by his favor unto another glad tidings, which does not exist, but there are some who trouble you and will to change the glad tidings of the Messiah. But even if we or an angel from heaven should witness to you outside of that which we have witnessed you, we or he would be damned. Think about this for a second. Let's try to use some reasoning here. Paul is saying if he preaches something different from John, different from Luke, different from Mark, Matthew, he should be damned. You really think he would be that stupid to curse himself like that? If he really is doing that, we should really be thinking about statements like that. Why would he say that unless he knows he's preaching the right Besorah, unless he knows he's preaching the same one that they accepted from Kaffa, from Matthew, from Mark, from John, from Yahusha himself. It's the same Besorah. It's the same glad tidings, the same glad news of Messiah, of his death, burial, and resurrection, and obedience. So that's just something to really think about there. Doesn't even make logical sense that he would condemn himself. Does it, by saying that. So again, so I'm going to continue here on with Romans chapter 10, verse 13. Romans chapter 10, verse 13. For everyone who will call on the name of Yahuwah shall be saved. He's quoting from Joel. Joel chapter 2, verse 32. And Acts chapter 2, verse 21. To make my point, I won't use Acts because it's pretty much just reiterated by him or the other apostles. So not to be redundant, I would rather use the actual Tanakh reference here to show you that he's going straight from the prophets. Okay? And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahuwah shall be saved. For in Mount Sion and in Jerusalem shall the saved one be, as Yahuwah has said. And this is how we know gospel is not the correct term. Just want to show everyone that we'll see this on the shared screen. This is how we know that gospel is a mistranslation. Okay, the Septuagint says glad tidings. They that have glad tidings preach to them, whom Yahuwah has called. So every time in your modern English Bibles it says gospel, it should actually be glad tidings. And gospel, I completely reject that term, and I really don't like using that term. Sometimes I slip up by mistake, but I really don't like using that term for many reasons. The etymology of it goes back to God's spell. It's not good. It's really not a good thing to say. So anyway, so we're going to go on here. And let's see here. I got a new message here. All right, we're fine. Okay, Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 to 16. Okay, so we're going to go to Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 to 16. And yeah. Oh yeah, Marvel. It's kind of interesting. My sister Marissa just pointed to me. She sent me a message about Marvel. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I marvel. Yeah, marvel is like astonished. So, and Paul later on talks about do not marvel, for Satan can transform into an angel of light. So again, the word marvel usually means like astonished, like perplexed. It's like, I cannot believe this. Like that you're going away to another Besorah. That's what he's saying. You've been corrupted and you're allowing people to pervert the glad news of Messiah. Yeah, the Marvel comics. Yeah, so again, Marvel comics, Marvel, for Satan can transform into angel of light. Yeah. So here we go. Now we're going to go to, Colossians 1:15 to 16. I'm going to show you that the doctrine of incarnation is actually agreed upon between Paul and Yahusha. And just to explain what the doctrine of incarnation is. It's the idea that basically a deity becoming human. So, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Colossians 1:15-16 says, "He who is the image," not just after the likeness, he is the literal image. He is the image of the unseen Elohim and is the firstborn, or it should actually say he's preeminent over all creation, not like first created. A lot of people take that to mean he was the first created being. No. The actual Greek word leans more towards the English word preeminent or supreme. The New Living Translation will say he's supreme over all creation. By him, okay, so right here it shows you that Paul agrees with John that Yahusha is co-creator with the Father. By him, not the angels, by him was everything created, which is in heaven, which is in the earth, which includes the angels, okay? Everything that is seen and everything that is unseen, whether thrones or dominions or principalities, again referring to angels, or rulers, everything has been created by his hand and in him. And so you can link that up with, okay, let's see here what we got here. See here, so we just did Colossians 1:15-16. Now I'm going to go to Genesis 1:1 in the Targum and show you where John and Paul are getting this concept. Alright. Hold on a second. Let's see here. People on Telegram, please stop messaging. Please. Because that's coming on the recording every time that happens. And there's no way for me to turn it off. I gotta figure that out after this recording, how to do that. Because I have Telegram on the desktop and it keeps doing that. Keeps doing stupid notifications.
Hello, everyone. This is River, and I'm not on Telegram, but hopefully my phone's not doing that.
No, it's not you, sis. It's someone else. Completely someone else. You're okay. You're okay. Alright, so Genesis 1:1 in the Targum says, "In wisdom, Yahuwah created," and if you're confused on who the person wisdom is, I would recommend you watch the study, Who is Wisdom? Divine Feminine Debunked, just so that would speed you up on that. Because we really don't have time to get through all the scriptures on that. So that's a whole completely another topic. So, but in Genesis 1:1, I believe that's literally talking about the person, Yahushua Messiah, who says himself, the person wisdom in Proverbs 8 says that, you know, today he begets me, the only begotten of the Father. Okay, so Paul and John understand this concept from Genesis 1:1. The plural Elohim is referring to the Father and the Son, not angels. They actually understand that concept. And John chapter 1 verse 12 is another reference of this. Okay, so John chapter 1 verse 12. John chapter 1 verse 12, "But those that received him, to them he gave authority to become the sons of Yahuwah, even to them that believe on his name." Okay, I don't know why I gave, that might have been a miss. Okay. Let's see. Okay, my bad. I meant to do verse 10. I'm sorry about that. "He was in the world, and the world existed by his hand, and the world knew him not." That's John 1:10 is referring to Yahusha there. So let me just fix that on the document real quick. John 1:10. Okay, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 12 to 13. And actually, yeah, we're going to go to there and show you he's quoting straight from Daniel 11:36 to 43. You're gonna microwave something. Tell me to mute. I'll be right back, guys. Hold on a second. We're going to have a little intermission, guys. I'm going to pause the recording. I'll be right back. We're going to take a minor break, all right? Okay.
Okay.
All right, the recording has resumed. I'm sorry, everyone on Facebook Live, but you guys are going to have to wait for the rest of this study. We're kind of pressed for time on Shabbat today, so we're gonna be going to do the rest of this study. You'll have to wait for it to be actually directly uploaded from my timeline. So sorry about that, guys. So 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 12 to 13. Let's see here. So we're going to go to there first. And, but we are indebted. Hold on, let's start with verse 12 here. And all those who believe not the truth but chose evil will be judged. And let me actually go, I'm probably going to go all the way up to verse 8 here to get the context here. It says, verse 8, and then that evil one will be revealed, whom our master Yahushua will consume with the breath of his mouth. And you can also get this, I'll show you later the connection with this verse with the book of Isaiah. And will destroy him by the revelation of his coming. For the coming of that one is in the activity of Satan, in all power, signs, and false wonders, and in all error of evil, which is in the perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth, in which they would have life, or they would have been saved. Because of this, verse 11, Yahuwah sent them the activity of delusion, that they would believe lies. So again, we got that. And let's see here. Now we're going to go to Daniel chapter 11, verses 33 and 36. Okay, Daniel 11, 33 and 36. Okay, so 33 we'll start with here. And the intelligent of the people shall understand much, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, and by captivity, and by the spoil of many days. And he shall do according to his will. This is the important one where Paul's definitely quoting from here. He shall do according to his will, and the king shall exalt and magnify himself against every mighty one, so including Yahuwah, against every mighty one, and shall speak great swelling words, and shall prosper until the indignation shall be accomplished, for it is coming to an end. Okay, so we got that. So let's see here. Now we're going to go to the Ascension of Isaiah, chapter 4, verses 1 to 13, and let me just pull that up real quick. Give me a sec, guys, to do that. And you can find this for free to read from at earlychristianwritings.com is where I found this from. I mean, after the Sabbath, if you feel led to purchase it, it's not that expensive. It's really not. Tell you the truth, is cheaper than some of the other extra biblical books out there, which is kind of interesting. So this is Ascension of Isaiah. I'm going to be reading chapter 4, verses 1 to 13 here. And all right, so let me see here. Okay, chapter 4. And now Hezekiah and Josab, my son, these are the days of the completion of the world. That is key there. Completion of the world. This is talking about end times. After it is consummated, Beliar, the king of this world, will descend, who has ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from the firmament in the likeness of a man, a lawless king. the slayer of his mother, who himself even this king. You know, Revelation says, he is of the eighth, even he is the eighth. You know, same terminology. Will persecute the plant. Now the plant would be the olive tree, us. Israel, Yasharal, the plant. The cultivated olive tree, the natural olive tree, the fact that the wild branches, you got the natural wild branches make up one tree. So, will persecute the plant, which the 12 apostles of the beloved. And for those that are unaware, in this apocryphal book, the beloved refers exclusively to Yahusha. Beliar is Satan. So just to give you context of what it's saying here. So the 12 apostles of the beloved has planted. Of the 12, one will be delivered into his hands. The ruler in the form of that king will come, and there will come with him all the powers of this world, and they will hearken unto him in all that he desires. And at his word the sun will rise at night, he will make the moon to appear at the 6th hour, and all that he desires he will do in the world, he will do and speak like the beloved, speak like Yahusha. And he will say, I am Elohim, and before me there has been none. Isaiah 41:10. And also this connects to Paul in 2 Thessalonians. So when Paul is saying he will be sitting in the temple of Yahuwah, claiming to be Yahuwah, Paul's most likely getting that from the Ascension of Isaiah chapter 4 verse 6. So, and all the people in the world will believe in him, and they will sacrifice him, and they will serve him, saying, this is Elohim, and besides him there is no other. And they greater number of those who shall have been associated together in order to receive the beloved, he will turn aside after him. And there will be the power of his miracles in every city and region, and he will set up his image before him in every city. And again, this goes to what Paul's talking about with the abomination of desolation, and what Matthew is talking about, what Mark was talking about, what Luke was talking about. When you see the abomination of desolation standing where it ought not to be, let them that read understand. Basically it's talking about a statue in a physical temple. And many believers and set apart ones, having seen him for whom they were expecting, for who was impaled, Yahusha Messiah. After that Isaiah had seen him who was impaled and ascended. And those also who were believers in him, of these few in those days will be left as his servants, while they flee from desert to desert, awaiting the coming of the beloved. So again, to me, a portion of that chapter shows that what Paul is talking about with the abomination of desolation of 2 Thessalonians, he's not making that stuff up at all. He's getting it from Daniel and possibly from this book, from the Ascension of Isaiah. So, again, you also have Romans chapter 11 verse 25 linking up with Genesis 48:19 of the Septuagint. So now we're going to Romans 11:25 and Genesis 48:19. So Romans 11:25. Okay, let's see here. For I do not desire you to be ignorant, brothers, of this mystery, lest you be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Yasharal under the fullness, until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, which you can actually find also in the New Testament being referred to in Matthew 24:14, in my opinion, where it says, then the end shall come. Okay, which I believe we're getting closer and closer. I still believe we need to try to witness to as many people as possible right now, but I do believe in prophetically speaking, we're getting close to this here. And it says, and this glad tidings, this Besorah of the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. and then shall the end come. And I want to explain something here. The Greek word for nations doesn't mean countries, okay? This is where what trips us up, and I think that's why people assume that we still have a long time before this happens, because it would have to get preached in every country of the world. No, that's not what nations means there. The Greek word for nations is ethnos, means ethnicities, ethnic groups. So it's saying that it's going to be preached in all the world for a witness unto all ethnic groups. It's not that every country is going to have it preached. Okay, and then if you go into the word world here, it's actually talking about the inhabited world. Okay, and this is G3625, oikumene, G3625, the inhabited world. So, again, yeah.
When it means ethnic, does it also mean language? Like, you know, the Tower of Babel have the 70. Yeah. Does it mean that as well?
Yeah, it specifically means ethnic groups, like ethnicities, but it can also mean linguistically ethnic groups too. That's why the Orthodox Jewish Bible, they're like one of the few that actually translate this correctly, and I think they actually put, let me see, I guess they don't do it here, but they do ethnic groups, and sometimes when that word is being used. Let me see, the Son of Man Bible, I think, does it. Yeah. All the ethno-linguistic nations. So it doesn't necessarily mean every country in the world. So a lot of assumptions are being put with this prophecy here, that we have to wait until even the third world countries hear it, when in actuality it's talking about ethnic groups, it's talking about all ethnic groups, all ethnicities, every language would have it spoken to them, which we're kind of close to, in my opinion. We're kind of close to that. So, I mean, if you look from the time of the apostles until now, there's been thousands and thousands of years to preach to every ethnic group. So, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just putting the opinion out there. This is purely opinion. But I think we need to be careful the way we interpret that prophecy, because it's not necessarily saying every literal country of all the countries that we have now are that it's gonna be physically brought to every physical country in the world. So that's just something that I came across recently, and this is prophesied about, and I believe Paul, the reason I brought this up is Paul quotes this from Genesis 48:19. So there is a cutoff point. That's the point I'm trying to make about that prophecy. There's a cutoff point where the fullness of the Gentiles, Yahuwah has a specific number of people in his mind, we don't know, that he's going to bring to him and be his children, and the rest are going to be, you know, children of the devil, and that's just the way it is. So at some point in time, the time will be cut off for us to be witnessing, and the end is going to come. And the next verse in Matthew 24 talks about the abomination of desolation. So, you know, that's just something I wanted to point out to people, is that there is a cutoff point. And Genesis 48:19 says, and he would not, but said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall be a people, and he shall be exalted. So this is talking about Ephraim and Manasseh, this prophecy, the fullness of the Gentiles. And he shall be exalted, but his younger brother shall be greater than he. And his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And the same Greek word here, and I know a lot of the black Hebrew Israelites don't want to admit this. This is talking about ethnic groups. From his one seed, there will be a multiple ethnic groups. So again, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. It's not just one ethnic group from the seed of Abraham. So again, this is talking about Ephraim, that his seed would sprout out multitude of different varying ethnic groups and different speaking nations, linguistic nations. So that's what it's actually talking about in context. of Genesis 48:19, and Paul quotes that in Romans 11:25. I'm sorry about that, Sister Sadie. I didn't realize I didn't have the scriptures up. Sorry about that. Okay, so I just read from Romans 11:25 and Genesis 48:19 in the Septuagint there. And next I'm going to be going to Galatians chapter 4 verses 8 to 11. I'm going to be dissecting the context of that chapter and what Paul's talking about, what he means by actual bondage in that chapter, what he's referring to as bondage. So let's go to Galatians 4 8 to 11. Let me just make sure this is on the screen. Sometimes it times out for a stupid reason. Okay, all right. Galatians chapter 4. But at one time, indeed, you did not know Elohim. You were slaves to those which by nature were not mighty ones. What is he referring to? The slavery, the bondage to those that are not mighty ones. Demons. The spirits of the giants that through the mediums of graven images, people worship these spirits of the giants. They also worship the fallen angels through the medium of graven images. That's what Paul's talking about. That's the bondage he's talking about. He's not talking about the Torah's bondage. So again, we got to look at everything in context. But now, having known Elohim, and rather having been known by Elohim, which Yahushua mentions in Matthew 7:21-23, what it means to be known by him, for him to know you. Okay? How is it that you turn again to the weak and beggarly elements, which once you willed to be slaves? You observe days and months and seasons and years. I am afraid for you, lest somehow I have worked hard for you in vain. Okay, see, the historical context of the book of the Galatians is that these Galatians were already preached about the Besorah, the glad tidings, by Paul himself. They were already believing in Yahushua and wanted to serve Yahuwah, but they were getting deceived that all you have to do is, get physically circumcised, and that's the actual prerequisite to be saved, rather than Yahushua's sacrifice. Rather than his sacrifice for our sins, the circumcision party was actually putting circumcision above the true prerequisite for salvation. And so they were going getting circumcised, and then they were going back to worshiping their other gods. And Paul is trying to reason with them, like, what is wrong with you guys? You're going back to the weak elementary matters of the world. You are actually going back to celebrating Saturnalia, Lupercalia, all these pagan traditions that the Galatians, if you research who the Galatians were, that's what he's talking about. That's the historical context of the book of the Galatians. So Paul is trying to reason with them, like, why have you fallen away from the glad tidings? Why are you going back to the elementary matters of the world? And he even warns the Colossians of the same thing. In Colossians 2:8, he warns them not to do that. He warns them not to go back to the elementary matters of the world, the traditions of men. Colossians 2:8, beware lest anyone captures you through philosophy, Greek philosophy and all that, an empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Messiah. That's self-explanatory right there. He's calling the traditions of men empty deceit, vain, philosophy. Okay? And he says, don't let them spoil you. Don't let them deceive you. So that's what he's talking about. And let's see here. So now we're going to go to, I think I also have verses 16 to 17 on the document here. So we're going to go to Colossians 2, 16 to 17 also. And let's see here. let no one disqualify you. I like that heading. Yeah. Therefore, do not let anyone judge you in food or in drink. And let me use the ISR 1998 because this is where the English translators really try to insert their own bias into the text. So I'm going to use the Restored Name Scriptures of the ISR 1998 here because they actually do a decent job with translating this verse. Let no one disqualify you. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or drinking or in respect of a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths. What he's saying is, don't let outsiders judge you. Don't let them judge you for keeping these days, for actually obeying the Father out of love for him, for actually obeying him and doing what we should and need to be doing in this walk. That is our part. So what he's talking about is basically, don't let the pagans judge you. Don't let the heathen judge you. And then he says, which are a shadow of what is to come. Meaning, we don't get rid of the shadows. I know there's a lot of Christian doctrine that they interpret this verse to mean they're shadows and they're gone. No. The shadows are to come. Because guess what? The shadows are coming back in the millennium. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. For any listeners that are Christians listening or viewing this study later on, those shadows are coming back. The Levitical priesthood is coming back. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's coming back in the millennium. So the shadows are not gone. They're not done with. So I want to make that clear. Which are a shadow of what is to come, but the body of the Messiah. Okay, so that's Colossians 2:16-17. So, and let's see here. We got Galatians 5:1. Galatians 5:1. All these are basically warning us about the elementary matters of the world, people spoiling us through vain deceit, people judging us for doing what we should be doing if we love the Father. You know, if we take that in context, that's what Paul's talking about. Alright. Galatians 5:1. In the freedom with which Messiah has made us free, stand firm then. Do not be held with a yoke of slavery. Notice how it says a yoke of slavery. What was the slavery, though, Paul just talked about in the last chapter we just read? The slavery was the elementary matters of the world. The slavery was going back to what they used to do when they were pagans. That's the slavery he's talking about. That's the bondage he's talking about. The law is not bondage. Paul himself would never call the law bondage in his own words. He even says, is the law sin? Yah forbid. Okay, so Mark chapter 7 verses 6-9 actually agree with what we just read from Paul in Colossians and Galatians. Okay, this is what Yahushua was trying to wake up his own Judean brothers of the flesh, to wake them up. Yahushua was trying to wake them up. He was trying to say, what are you guys doing? You're honoring traditions of men over the Father's commands. Right here, okay. Here we go. Mark 7:6. And he answered and said unto them, well has Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, the people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Okay? For laying aside the commandment of Yahuwah, you hold the tradition of men as the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things you do. And if you look at Mark 7:6 all the way down to 9, you can get that in the Septuagint version of Isaiah 29:13. That's what he means by Isaiah. Well did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites. Yahushua is quoting from Isaiah 29:13. And Yahuwah has said, these people draw near to me with their mouth, and they honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching the commandments and doctrines of men. So again, this was the problem that Yahushua had to deal with. with their own physical Israelite brothers, and Paul had to deal with it with the pagans. They were going back to the traditions of men, maybe different traditions of men than the Pharisees, but still traditions of men. Still bad, either way. It might have been different ones, but it's still the same concept. So, Acts 23, verse 3. Okay. And at the end, we're going to explain why some of the criticism that gets for Paul's letters and his conversion stories, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it and why we shouldn't be worried about it, because the same criticism people give Paul's 3 conversion stories are given to the Basora accounts of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John without actually studying it out for themselves. They just do the easy thing and just don't even want to study it out to figure out why the counts differ in a little way. And we're gonna, at the end of this study, we're gonna discuss the difference between the term, what a contradiction is, and what is a difference between that and different accounts that expound upon the same event. That's one account might not have as much information as another. That doesn't mean it's automatically a contradiction. So I'm going to explain that at the end of this study. And let's see here. Acts 23 verse 3. So we're going to go there next. Acts 23 verse 3. And so, then Shaul said to him, Elohim is going to strike you, whitewashed wall. Do you judge me according to the Torah? And do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? What he's saying is, basically he's saying, are you going to break Torah by striking me down? That's what he's saying. Because he's actually saying that you're going to judge me unrighteously according to the Torah and break the Torah by striking him down. So, unlawfully stoning him, he's referring to. So, again, Paul was never against the Torah. He constantly was teaching the Old Testament law, Yahuwah's law, the law of Moses. Acts 24, 13 to 14. Okay, so the same chapter here. Acts 24, 13 to 14 says, according to the way. He's talking about worshiping the Elohim of our fathers according to the way, or according to a sect. Okay, he's talking about the way that you find in the book of Proverbs. Okay. Okay, so here we go. And it says here, Acts 23:13, and those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who having come to the chief priests and elders said, we have bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we have killed Shaul. Okay, so let's see here. Where is it? Okay, maybe I might have miscited the verse there. I thought it was Acts 24, my bad, sorry guys. 24, 13 to 14, my bad. Alright, here we go. Nor are they able to prove the charges which they now accuse me. And this I confess to you, that according to the way, which they call a sect, so I worship the Elohim of my fathers, believing all that has been written in the Torah and the prophets. So, for someone to say to me that Paul is a false prophet, according to Deuteronomy 13, you would have to prove that Paul is teaching against the Torah to get rid of his letters. If you're going to be scriptural and say he's a false prophet, Satan has used him for division, first of all, Yahusha himself would say he would divide. So that alone should not cause you to get rid of Paul's letters, in my opinion. Okay? Yahusha himself says, I come to bring division. So division of itself is not evil. And so that's something people need to realize, is that Yahusha came to bring division. He came to see who is truly his children and not his children. That's what he meant by bringing division. So before you start throwing away 1/3, like, not more than that, probably like 70% of the New Testament, you might want to find another reason other than, you think he's bringing division. Okay? And another thing is, you have to prove, according to Deuteronomy 13, that he is false. That he's leading you away to another Elohim. You would have to prove that, according to Deuteronomy 13 test. Okay? And so Acts 24, 13, 14, he says, according to the way. What's the way? We know Yahusha in John 14, 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And we know Yahusha is the Torah. Paul is saying according to the way, according to the Torah, which you can find in Proverbs 22, 6. Train up your child in the way. So I don't see no contradiction there. Again, like we started off this study, I'm going to reiterate again, please study to show yourself approved before you do anything rational like get rid of Scripture. Please study to show yourself approved. Okay? Proverbs 22, 6, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The book of Psalms says that your law is a light unto my feet. So, and I'll even show you that. That's what the context of the light of the world is talking about when Yahusha says he's the light of the world. Alright? So, okay, let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, here we go. Psalms 119, 105. Thy law, this is the Septuagint here, thy law is a lamp unto my feet and a light to my paths. Thy law, okay, the Torah, is a light unto my feet, is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So again, Yahusha the light, the way. The Torah is the way, according to Proverbs 22, 6. Obviously, King Solomon would be referring to the Torah when he says, train your child up in the way that he should go. So, Romans chapter 3, verse 31, going to go to now. And, see here. Romans 3:31. And let's see here. Romans 3:31. Therefore, do we nullify the law? And here's Paul making it very clear what he's telling you himself, what he's preaching. Therefore, do we nullify the law through belief? Certainly not. On contrary, we establish the law. And I think even some translations actually from the Greek show it saying Elohim forbid. I forget which ones do that, but there is certain versions of the Greek New Testament. Yeah, here we go. The Greek Bible, 1539. Some manuscripts of the Greek actually have that Greek word actually meaning Elohim forbid. Do we then destroy the law? Wow. I really like the way the Greek Bible does it, and this is like an old Bible from the 1500s. Do we then destroy the law through belief? Elohim forbid. But we rather maintain the law. Okay, that's self-explanatory there. And you know what's funny is they have the word destroy there. That kind of reminds me of Matthew 5. Again, Yahusha, this is a warning to those that have accepted him. Okay, this is a warning. Do not think that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. What do you know? The same word there. Don't think I came to destroy. Don't think I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. And if you look at the Greek there, it's not fulfill. It's actually supposed to be fully preach. So, plero. The same Greek word plero is used in the book of Acts when it's talking about to fully proclaim or preach the Besorah. So, to render full, to complete, to consummate, to render perfect, to perfect it, okay, to accomplish it, carry it out, which to accomplish and carry it out, you would have to preach it, that's part of that, okay, to execute. So again, and that's the biggest problem. So again, that's where you have to actually go into the full context of that. So again, all right, so here we go. Now we're going to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39, crossing that with Deuteronomy 24. So we got 1 Corinthians 7:39. 1 Corinthians 7:39. Okay, so a wife has been bound by law as long as her husband lives. This is the law of the wife, okay? This is talking about the law of marriage. But if her husband also dies, she is free to be married to whom she desires, only in the master. So, again, the point of that verse, he's saying in context, is she's free from the law of marriage, not from the Torah. Okay, that's what happens when you take that verse out of context, even though it tells you the context in the verse. Duh. It says right there, it says she is free to marry another. It's not talking about she's free from the law. You know, it's really sad because there's a lot of songs. My mom grew up in a Protestant background. There used to be songs, like worship songs, like Free from the Law. And I'm like, my goodness, that is horrifying that people actually believe that that verse said that. Very bad. Deuteronomy 24. So now we're going to cross that with Deuteronomy 24, that same context. I believe he's actually quoting from Deuteronomy 24 here, because this is the laws concerning divorce. If anyone should take a wife and should dwell with her, then it shall come to pass, if she should not have found favor before him, because he has found some unbecoming thing in her, that he shall write to her a certificate of divorce, and give it into her hands, and he shall send her away out of his house. And if she go away and be married to another man, so it's talking about that she's free from the law of the marriage to her husband, because he gave her that certificate of divorce. And it goes on to say, if the new husband divorces her, a separate husband that's not the first husband, the second husband, if he divorces her, she can't go back. She's kind of screwed. If she's divorced twice, she's screwed, basically. And, she can't go back to the first husband. I mean, there is a loophole in there that maybe she could marry again a third time, but definitely she can't go back to the original husband. It makes it very clear that she cannot go back to the original husband if the second husband divorces her also. So, and that's what Yahuwah found a loophole in that Paul talks about, that the first husband, if the first husband died, he can take her back and she can be his wife again, because she is free to marry again. And actually, let me correct myself, so it actually does seem like she would not be able to marry if she's divorced twice. So if the first husband dies according to that law, then she can actually marry again. So the thing is that we as humankind went away from the Father, got married to another spiritual husband. A lot of us were, following Satan for most of our lives, spiritually speaking. If Yahuwah, in my opinion, that's why I believe Yahuwah is Yahusha, because the first husband had to die for us to be taken back. If there's another person that's not the first husband that dies for us, then we're in trouble. Then we have a problem there, because Yahuwah's own law says that cannot happen. It has to be the first husband that dies. So to me, that reconciles, the Basora. That's the Besorah right there. You know, the Creator, our Creator, who was first married to Yasharal, to be able to take his bride back, he had to take on human flesh and die for us. So anyway, I didn't want to go on too much of a tangent there, though. So let's see here. We're almost done here. So we're going to go to Romans chapter 7, verses 7 and 12. And so Romans chapter 7, verse 7. And okay. Okay, the law and sin. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Certainly not. On the contrary, I would not have known sin except through the law, for I would not have known lust unless the law has said, you shall not covet. So he's talking about a certain type of lust, a lust of possessions, not a sexual lust, but a coveting, lusting after someone else's possessions, being envious of someone, jealous of someone, and wanting what they have. So he's saying that without the Torah, he would not know that's wrong. And then Romans 7:12, therefore the law indeed is set apart and the commandment is set apart and righteous and tube. So the commandment is set apart, it's righteous and tube, and it's set apart. So how is he preaching against the Father? Again, this is why I say we need to test all things and not just listen to our favorite preacher or favorite teacher on YouTube. Don't even listen to me. Test all this stuff I'm giving you today. Don't believe me. I'm just a guy. You know, I'm just a man. Don't believe me. Test all this stuff. Okay? Romans 8, 1-2, context of Romans 6, 1-2, and Romans 6, 5-8. So now we're going to go to Romans chapter 6 and Romans chapter 8. So we're going to go to Romans 6, 1-2. What shall we sin then? Shall we continue in sin that favor may abound? Certainly not. So Paul's even telling you what is mainstream Christian doctrine today. He's against. He's against the idea of we just get away with the law and we keep sinning so that mercy will increase. He's actually telling you not to do that. Certainly not. We died to sin, to breaking the law. How shall we live any longer in it? Okay, and then we go to Romans 6:5 here. For if we have been united together in the likeness of his death, certainly we shall be the likeness of his resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man is impaled with him, so that the body of sin may be done away with. So the thing that's done away with is not the law, it's the body of sin. We're constantly impaling our flesh, spiritually speaking. We're constantly denying ourselves and taking up our stake daily to murder our flesh. So that's done away with on the day of the resurrection. You know? So again, like, that's the point. That's what Paul's talking about in Romans 6:6. No, in 6:5, 6:6 says, knowing this, that our old man was impaled with him, so that the body of sin may be done away with. We should no longer serve sin. For he who has died has been made righteous from sin. But if we died with Messiah, we believe also we should live together with him. Meaning, if you die and put to dead your flesh and live a life like Messiah, you also physically die with him, you will be in the resurrection, the first resurrection with him. And, others obviously are going to be in the second resurrection, but that's like a whole nother topic. But the point of the matter is, this is the context that Paul's talking about. Okay? And you can even get more context of it from Romans 8, 1-2, that the law he's talking about is not the Torah that he's saying we're not under. Okay? Alright, so Romans 8:1, life in the Spirit. And this is important too. Any Christians watching, be very mindful that your NIVs have chosen a manuscript that omits this part of the verse out. So in your NIVs, it would say something like this. Like, let me use an example here. The ESV would say, there is now therefore no condemnation for those that are in Messiah Yahusha, period. That's all it has. When it actually should say, there is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Messiah Yahusha, who do not walk after the flesh, but according to the Spirit. That statement here at the end is omitted out of a certain Greek manuscript that some modern Bibles tend to use for whatever reason. Probably because they have that bias. You know, that there's no condemnation. You accepted Yahusha, you made that altar call, you're done. You know, that's what they teach in the church. Not realizing that Paul is actually warning you, even though you accepted him, do not walk after the flesh. There's only no condemnation if you don't walk after the flesh, but according to the Spirit. That's the context of that. For the law of the Spirit of life is in Messiah Yahusha for the law of the Spirit of life in Messiah Yahusha has set me free from the law of sin and death. So again, that's Romans 8, 1-2. Trying to move quickly here. Alright, so now we're going down to Colossians 2:14. Colossians 2:14, I'm using the Aramaic New Testament here because it's the clearest version that I've been able to find. And the Greek would say he's nailed these ordinances to the stake, which to me is very deceptive, because people could just say, you know, oh, the ordinances are the law. You know, so if you look at the Aramaic Peshitta New Testament, it makes it very clear what's nailed to the stake. Makes it very clear. And it says, and let me just zoom it in for people that are watching here. Let me just try to zoom this in a bit. Okay. Colossians 2:14, and he has blotted out by his authority the bill of our debts. The bill of our debts is not the law. The bill of our debts is the list of sins that we have committed against the Father from birth. Okay? Which was against us or adverse to us, and he took it from the midst and nailed it to his stake. So what's nailed to the stake is not the Old Testament law, not Yahuwah's law, not the law of Moses, but our sins, our past sins before we knew him, when we were strangers to the Father and we were heathens. And some of us might have been Wiccans and pagans depending on our background, you know, whatever we were before we knew him. Basically, he nails all those sins we've done against him, all the mistakes we made in our lives, to the stake. When Yahusha did that, he did that for everyone that is being called to the Father. And how much a great thing that he did for us to do that. So again, that verse even gets twisted by some people because of the way the Greek has it. Okay, so, and obviously Galatians 3:28-29. I don't think I need to literally put this on the screen. I'm pretty sure most people know this scripture. There's no Yahudite nor Greek. Okay, we are all one in Messiah. There's no more male or female. Okay, so those that believe in Messiah are the seed of Abraham. Okay, so I mean, if you really want, I can put it up in the screen, but that's a very familiar verse. I would be surprised if anyone doesn't know that verse. Those two verses there, they're very, very popular. Okay, so there is neither nor Yahudim nor, wow, this Aramaic says Aramaean. Neither Yahudim nor Aramaean, neither servant nor free person, neither male nor female, for all of you are one in Yahusha the Messiah. If you are of the Messiah, you are therefore the seed of Abraham and heirs by promise. And this is very important to understand. Ethnicity has nothing to do with being the seed of Abraham at all. I cannot reiterate that more. And if you get rid of Paul, I can see how people can start believing that. If you get rid of Paul's letters and you start getting rid of the New Testament and you go Old Testament only, you're going to start falling for heresies like only one ethnicity can be saved and all that, and the whole BHI movement. So I can see how people get deceived by that, because you get rid of Paul, Paul's the only person that speaks on it. I can see people even taking Yahusha's word out of context, even though Yahusha says the flesh, meaning not just sin, but physically flesh, profits nothing. I can see how, and people would misinterpret that because, they have a bias. They would say, oh no, he's just talking about sin. He's not talking about, like physical flesh of our bodies. Like, people would not want to admit that, because that would mean that obviously all ethnoses can be saved, because flesh and blood has nothing to do with salvation. So, but anyway, so we're going to go again. Now we're going to Romans 7:22. For I rejoice in the law of Yahuwah in the inward person. Okay, so again, we got that. And I'm going kind of quick here because it's taking a little bit longer than I thought. Psalms 1 verse 2, chapter 1 verse 2 here. So we got chapter 1 verse 2. And Psalms 1 verse 2. But his pleasure is in the law of Yahuwah, and in his law he will meditate day and night. Okay, so again, he has the same heart that David has. Paul has the same heart that he has. Okay, so now I'm going to 1 Corinthians 5, 6 to 8. And, okay, so let's see here. Okay, so 1 Corinthians chapter 5, 6 to 8. Your boasting is not too. Do you not know that a little yeast ferments the whole lump? Now what he's talking about here is obviously he's talking about the fact that a little bit of leaven in your doctrine ferments the whole lump. Same thing with Yahusha. What did Yahusha warn us about? The leaven of the Pharisees. Okay, so verse 7 here. Purge out the old yeast from you, that you be a new lump. Basically, purge out your sin. Get rid of your old sin. Just as you are unleavened bread. Our Passover is the Messiah, who was slain for our sake. Therefore let us make a feast not with the old leaven, neither with the yeast which is wickedness or of bitterness, but the leaven of purity and set apartness. So again, he's talking about making ourselves a new lump, spiritually speaking. Messiah, our Passover, has been sacrificed for us, and he's hinting that we need to keep the feast. So what he's talking about is the feast of Leviticus 23. You can read it on your own time. I'm not going to be able to, we don't have time today to go through all that whole chapter. But the fact of the matter is the feast days of Yahuwah is not the feast of the Jews. Yahuwah himself in Leviticus 23 says, these are my feasts. So again, Paul's referring back to the feasts, back to the law, that they need to be keeping it. Okay? 1 Corinthians 6, 9 to 10, Leviticus 20, 10 to 13. So now we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 6. Might as well do 9 to 12. I see it both referenced here, so we might as well just do 6, 9 to 12. Okay. Alright. Or do you not know that evil men do not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah? Do not be deceived, nor fornicators, meaning people that commit whoredom before marriage, sex before marriage, neither worshippers of idols, neither adulterers, neither sexual molesters, abusers of mankind, neither males lying down with males. Okay, so all these, even here, Paul's quoting from the Tanakh, the Torah, with most of this stuff. Abusers of mankind, you'll find there. You'll find adulterers. You'll find the molesters. I mean, it's common sense, but fornication is a sin in the Torah. So all this stuff you can find in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. Okay, so here we go. Verse 10. Neither frauds, meaning those people that lie, nor thieves, nor drunkards, nor the insolent, neither extortioners. These do not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. Again, all this stuff you can find in Tanakh, even getting drunk. Okay? All that stuff can be found in the Tanakh. He's not making up stuff as he's going along. He's literally quoting stuff from the Torah, like just reiterating that if you practice such things, like meaning doing them on purpose, you will not inherit the kingdom. That's what he's saying. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to look at Leviticus 20, 10 to 13 for that. Leviticus 20, 10 to 13. And, alright, let me take it off the zoom there. There we go. Whatever a man shall commit adultery with a wife of a man, or whoever shall commit adultery with the wife of his neighbor, let him die the death. The adulterer and the adulteress. And if anyone should lie with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Okay, that's actually what was going on with Ham. Okay, when you read the story right after the flood, that Ham saw his father's nakedness. Yeah, that's we have a really corrupt understanding of what seeing his father's nakedness means in the Hebraic culture. Okay, it's not just saying he saw his father naked. Okay, it's talking about uncovering his father's nakedness. Let them both die the death. They are guilty, and if anyone should lie with his daughter-in-law, yet them both be put to death, for they have worked in reverence, they are guilty. And whoever shall lie with a male as with a woman, they both work abomination, let them die the death, they are guilty. Okay, so self-explanatory there. Alright. And then we got 1 Corinthians 13:5. Okay. Alright, so 1 Corinthians 13:5. Okay, 1 Corinthians 13:5. Okay. Does not behave disgracefully, does not seek its own, it's not provoked to anger, thinks no evil. Okay. This is all stuff that Yahuwah also commands in the Torah for us to love one another, for us not to be selfish. Do not withhold our hand from the poor, and for us to, basically take up the cause of the orphan and the widow. That's all selfless acts. So Paul's not just talking about like a new law, you just be a good person and whatever. Okay, thinks no evil. Again, we should have righteous thoughts. Again, as Yahushua says, adultery starts in the mind and in the eyes. You see a woman, well, not adultery, but sexual morality will start in your mind. You look at a woman from behind, and us men, we would lust after a woman in our heart and in our mind. So that's why we can't have wicked thoughts, because sin starts in the mind, ultimately. And then it comes out with our actions. Okay, so see, I think we did Romans 6:14, Romans 8:1-2. I think that's a copy there. That's a duplicate there. So now we're going to go to Romans 10, verse 14. Not verse 14, verse 4, my bad. Romans 10:4. And I'm gonna explain here the problem with this in our modern Bibles and why people think that Paul is saying that Messiah is the end of the law. Okay, so in your modern Bibles, this Greek word here would say end. Okay, now if you look into the actual Greek, though, not the English, but the actual Greek, telos, G5056. Now they'll say a termination limit to end of period of time, eternal, but yet it means eternal. You gotta be careful even with the lexicon sometimes, because sometimes they contradict one another. So let's go to the Strong's here. I just looked at the Thayers there. Let's look at the Strong's here. Look, Strong's Concordance, right, says set out for a definite point or goal. So if they would have translated this correctly and put point or goal, notice how different it reads. For Messiah is the goal or point of the law, the purpose of the law for righteousness to everyone that believes. Wow, huge difference. Just one word makes huge difference. And that's why I say you got to be careful. You got to even test the translations you read from. And just for a note, that's why I recommend the ISR. When I read the letters of Paul to someone that doesn't know Scripture, I use like a Restore Name translation mainly because they fix these errors that the King James and others made with Paul's letters. That they fixed the preconceived biases that they've had with certain Greek words. Okay, so, alright, so we got Galatians 3, 1 to 13. Alright, so we're going to go to Galatians 3, 1 to 13. Alright. Galatians 3. Oh no, 1 to 3, not 1 to 13. What the heck am I talking about? 1 to 3. So, O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you, that you should not obey the truth? Well, hold on a second. What's the truth according to the Old Testament? The law. So really what Paul's saying here, if we take the definition that David has in Psalms 119, 142, O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you that you should not obey the law, before whose eyes Yahushua Messiah was portrayed, publicly among you as impaled. This only I do will to learn from you. Did you receive the Spirit by the works of the law, or by the hearing of belief? Now he's dealing with the Galatians believing that, you know, they have to, you know, basically their prerequisite to be saved is a single physical act of the Torah, like a main specific physical action, which is known as physical circumcision. So he's saying, did you receive the Spirit of Yahuwah by either belief of Yahusha's impalement, his crucifixion, or did you receive the Spirit by outward works of the law? That's what he's saying to them. Or by the hearing of the belief. Are you so foolish, having begun in the Spirit? Meaning being led by the Spirit of Yahuwah to obey him out of love, out of loving him, not obeying the laws so that you can save yourself and you don't need Yahusha's sacrifice, which I guarantee you that's what was going on with them, or at the minimum with the Galatians, they were putting physical obedience of the law above Yahusha's sacrifice and starting to trust in their own works for salvation. Will you now be made perfect in the flesh? So again, that's the context, what he's talking about. Again, he's even saying, have you allowed them to cause you not to obey the truth? Okay? So there was even probably some lawlessness with the Galatians too, most likely. And I did have verse 13 here, so I want to look at real quick what verse 13 said. So Galatians 3:13, which says, Messiah has redeemed us from the curse of the law. What's the curse of the law in Deuteronomy? Okay, if you go to Deuteronomy 32, you get all the curses. The curse of the law is not the law itself. And I want to make that clear. That's not the Torah itself. There is a curse in the Torah, just like there's barakas in the Torah. Okay, so he's saying Messiah has redeemed us from the curse of the law, not the law itself, having become a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. And you can find that in the book of Deuteronomy 2. He's not making that up either. You can find that in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 23. Okay? So again, this is the context Paul is using here. He's not making up new doctrine or anything. Okay? He's not telling you that the law is a curse. Okay. So we got Psalms chapter 119, 142 to show you the definition of truth in the Old Testament, and that he's using the same context that King David would have been using. So let's go to Psalms 119, 142. Let's see here. Hold on. Almost there. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your law, your Torah, is truth. So every time you see in the New Testament, doesn't matter who's speaking, talking about the truth this, the truth that, obey the truth, they're talking about one thing. If you take the Old Testament definition of things, you can understand what they're talking about, rather than us making up our own definitions. You know? Okay, so I think Daniel 9:11 was a mistake. I don't think it directly connects with that, so I'll get rid of that one. 1 Corinthians 10:25 is next. So 1 Corinthians 10:25. Just bear with me, guys. We're almost done here. So I'm trying to get us done here before we end today's session. All right, so 1 Corinthians 10:25 says, you eat whatever is sold in the meat market, asking no questions because of conscience. And man, this is a big one that, in my opinion, has been misinterpreted. I don't believe, and this is just my opinion, I'm not putting it out there as doctrine, but my opinion, what Paul's really referring to is, we should be a little bit more careful what type of meat we're buying from the market. We should be a little bit more careful. We should be inquiring whether it's been strangled or not. We should be inquiring what slaughterhouse it came from. And we should be inquiring, has it been killed the right way? Has blood been poured out of it, the animal? That's what he's saying. So he's going back to the Torah. He's not saying, you can just do whatever because you have a good conscience. You trust the people. It's okay to trust the people. You don't have to ask about anything. I don't think that's the interpretation of that verse. And I think in our flesh we would like to think that's the interpretation. And because, we just want to eat our meat. We don't want to inquire about it. We might be afraid that it might have been strangled. And we might not be able to eat it. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, even us in the Hebrew Roots movement, I feel like we have not been honest in certain verses of what Paul is really talking about. What is the context of certain verses? Okay, so 1 Corinthians 10:25 is not telling you can just eat whatever meat you find at the market. Just because you personally, in your human heart, have a good conscience, that you think you don't have to worry about it being, that you can say, you think in your own heart, oh, well, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been strangled. I'm pretty sure it's been killed the right way. And that's why a lot of our brothers and sisters get kosher meat, because that seems to be one of the only, and meets like other belief systems that would be very strict on killing the animal the right way, so that's, well, you can ask them what the sister just messaged me a good question here, my sister Marissa. How would we know? Well, look on the package, look on, whatever slaughterhouse. I'm pretty sure you can ask, like, the deli person or whatever, like, do you guys know what slaughterhouse you got it from? Stuff like that. Like, I talked to a sister about this the other day, and, she basically gets kosher stuff, the majority of the time, kosher meat and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty safe. In my opinion, it's pretty safe anyway. And I know there's different opinions on halal meat and all that, but I mean, if you feel like that would be a safe thing to do, at least with the halal meat, they do kill it the right way, and I'm pretty sure they don't leave the blood in there, from what I've heard from other Muslims, like mainstream Muslims, what they've told. There's one that used to work with my mom that told her that she kind of was on a similar conviction that I was in our walk, with being careful of the meat you're eating. And so I think if you want to just be safe about it, well, actually, I found out it does mean, Sister Marissa, I found out recently from others they that have inquired about kosher, like our sister Kristen. It's not just blessed by a rabbi. That's not only what kosher means. They do kill it the right way. They slit its throat the right way, and they actually kill it the right way, biblically speaking. So I had to be corrected recently on that interpretation, on that assumption I had. So I had to, be corrected about that because I didn't know about it. I didn't fully look into it, what kosher actually means. So if you're going to get meat from a store, try to inquire about how it's killed. Either inquire on the slaughterhouse that it was killed at, or look it up, look the company up that you get your meat from. Like, there should be like a company name or, on the package that you buy. So, look up the farm, whatever farm puts out the meat that you buy. There's certain farms that you get from the deli market, that will say. But I would just encourage people to really think about the context of 1 Corinthians 10:25. Is he saying it's okay to just buy whatever and not ask about it, and not ask whether it's been killed right or not? That's just something I'm putting out there. 1 Corinthians 8:4-13. We're going to go there next. So then, concerning the eating of foods offered to idols, we know that an idol is no matter at all in the world, and that there is no other Elohim but one. For even there are so-called mighty ones, whether in heaven or on earth, as there are many mighty ones and many masters. For us there is one mighty one, the Father, from whom all came, from whom we live, and one Master, Yahushua Messiah, through whom all came and through whom we live. However, not all have this knowledge, but some, being aware of the idol until now, eat it as having been offered to an idol. So he's even saying here, if you know for a fact that it's been offered to idol, you don't eat it. You don't. And in modern day, there is such occurrences that, you can use some common sense with this stuff. Like Chinese buffets, I've seen pictures of brothers and sisters taking pictures in person through the entrance of the door, that the people of these Chinese buffets that would actually offer drink offerings to the statues. So this is something that still happens today. So we do need to be aware of this, and that's what Paul's talking about. Until now, eat it as having been offered to an idol, so their conscience being weak is defiled. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's because they have a weak conscience. No, he's not saying that, because that would completely contradict what 1 Corinthians chapter 10 says. So, but food does not commend us to Elohim, for we are none the better if we eat, nor any worse for not eating. Now he's talking about conviction, basically. But look to it, lest somehow this right of yours becomes a stumbling block to those who are weak. For if anyone sees who have knowledge eating in an idol's place, shall not his conscience, if he is weak, be built up to eat food offered to idols? So this weak brother for whom Messiah died shall perish through your knowledge. Now sinning in this way against the brothers and wounding their weak conscience, you sin against Yahuwah. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I am never again going to eat meat. What this is talking about, he's actually talking about in context meat versus vegetables. That's what he's talking about. Some people are convicted not to eat meat at all. He says, lest I make my brother stumble. So this is the same context in the book of Romans, where he talks about meat versus vegetables. Okay, it's not saying that, oh, well, I have a stronger conscience, I can eat in a place where food is sacrificed to idols. No, to me that would be utterly ridiculous. And if that's the true context, then we do have a problem with Paul's letters. So for me, I choose to believe that he is going along with the Torah because I have no other reason to believe that he would be contradicting the Torah in the Tanakh that clearly says you don't eat meat sacrificed to idols. It's a definite sin. It's not a conviction thing, it's a sin. It's a direct sin. So again, I think context is key. So anyway, but I'm going to move on. Hebrews 4:12 and Proverbs 5:4. Hebrews 4:12 and Proverbs 5:4. For the word of Yahuwah is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. So you can also go to Proverbs chapter 5 verse 4, which I think he's quoting from here. Yeah. But afterwards you will find her more bitter than gall and sharper than any two-edged sword. So I think what's happening here in Proverbs 5 is he's comparing you going after the strange woman. It's actually comparing that is sharper than any two-edged sword to the word of Yahuwah, which is kind of interesting. But I drew that connection. Maybe that's not an actual verbatim quote, but it seems like it at the time. So I could be wrong. Romans 6:14, we just did that. All right, so 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 8, where he gets this concept of Yahusha destroying the Antichrist with the breath of his mouth. He actually gets from the book of Isaiah and prophecy. So we're going to go to 2 Thessalonians 2:8. And then shall that wicked man be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall abolish with the brightness of his coming. And you can go to, let's see here, so we're going to go to Isaiah 11:4 here. In the Septuagint it says, but he shall judge the cause of the lowly, and shall reprove the lowly of the earth, and he shall smite the earth with the word of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he destroy the wicked one. Titus 3:9-11. But avoid foolish disputes and genealogies and strifes and legal fights, for they are unprofitable and futile. So again, this is... Alright, so let's go... I like to use the Aramaic here. The Aramaic really clears this up. Christianity likes to use this verse, Titus 3:9, to say that we're not supposed to strive and try to get people to keep the law. We shouldn't be striving about whether we should be keeping the Torah or not. If you look at Titus 3:9 in the Aramaic, it says, but abstain from foolish debates, from tales of genealogies, from contentions, and from contests of the scribes. Not from strivings about the law. Okay, I want to make that clear. So there is a difference. Contest of the scribes is referring to the Pharisees and the scribes. It's talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. You know, the contest of them one-upping one another, you could say. For there is no profit in them, and such things are worthless. Avoid a man who is a heretic after the first and second admonitions. Basically, after the first or second time you lovingly rebuke a brother or sister and they're preaching heresy, you let them go. You don't do it anymore after the second time. That's it. That's done. And beware and be aware that he who is such is perverse and a sinner and is self-condemned. So that's a pretty strong statement from Paul writing to Titus there. So, and I think that's about it. So now I just want to kind of explain to everyone And Sister Sadie, I know you were asking about putting up the scriptures. I'm going to send you the documents so you guys can test it for yourselves. I'll send it right here to the chat. Okay, so, oh, my bad. I meant to send it not just to Marissa, but to everyone. My bad about that. So, there we go. So, anyway, so now I just want to kind of explain and unmute, let's see here, kind of explain and just basically just for people to understand why the conversion story, the reason there's differences in it from what I've looked up is that it's very possible Acts chapter 9 was written by the Apostle Luke and not Paul. So there might have been differences in like maybe stuff that's lacking in like being more in depth about his conversion. But again, I want to explain, just because something has more information doesn't make it a contradiction. And that's something I wanted to explain, because the same people will say the same argument on the actual basic, they'll try to argue the same basic argument of the Besorah accounts. Like I said before, they'll say Luke has this and John doesn't have that and Mark doesn't have that, so they must contradict, rather than it's the fact that one account is just a little bit more detailed. Is that really a contradiction just because it's a little bit more detailed? And that's something we really got to test out for ourselves. I would say for something to be a contradiction means that something has to directly go against what has already been said. So basically it would have to go against what you already have a foundation of something on. Like, for example, if something in the New Testament says something that's completely against the Tanakh, the Torah and the prophets, that completely is opposite of what they say, then you have a contradiction. So that is the difference between expounding upon things. Like, for example, I know not a lot of everyone believes in the apocryphal books, but I'm going to give you one easy example here. Genesis 6:4. Okay, it says the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, right? Okay, does it say the names of the sons of Elohim? Does it say when it happened? All it says is in those days. Again, that just because there's a count that's vague, and then you have Enoch, which expounds upon that same exact single event, and it's not saying something different. That's called expounding upon something. Enoch is giving you added information on that single event. In Enoch chapter 6 verse 4. It's not contradicting it. It's giving you a more detailed description. Same thing with the Besorah accounts. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They have they differ in a way because one gives you more things that have happened, or more things that the other one's lacking, but just because it's lacking doesn't mean it's a contradiction, if you understand what I'm saying. So before you throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay, just really pray to the Father about this. Really ask Him to give you discernment about this, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, you throw away 3/4 of the New Testament, in my opinion, that is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. And from what I've seen, there's a pattern here. There's a pattern. Those that reject Paul eventually will reject Yahusha, and they'll become Old Testament only, and then I've seen some reject the prophets even. So, I mean, it's a very dangerous thing, and so today's message is just for those people, man, out there that might be questioning and, seeing other ministries going against Paul out of nowhere and just don't know about this. I really think today's message, at the least, will give you some confirming witnesses that we can call these epistles that he's wrote as inspired, just as all the other books that are in our Bibles today. So I just want to thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your Shabbat, everyone. Shalom.